Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight for our masterclass covering all things land and access in the great state of North Dakota. My name's Jack. I'm coming to you from the onX office here in Missoula, Montana. We're going to give it just a minute or two to let everybody get logged in, go over a couple of housekeeping items, and then we'll get right into the content for the evening. So first things first, your audio and video are turned off, so we can't see or hear you, so no worries if you have noise in the background or anything like that. This class is being recorded, so if you have to leave early, we're going to send you a YouTube link tomorrow evening that will, let you watch the class in full or go back and rewatch any portion that you wanted to rewatch or anything like that. If you do have a question for us, please drop them in the Q&A box down below. You have two options down there. There's a chat and there's a Q&A. We're going to prioritize questions from the Q&A. In the chat, they just get missed. So chat's great just to let us know, maybe who you are, where you're tuning in from. But please utilize that Q&A if you have a question you'd like us to answer. And then we are doing a giveaway at the end of the class, like we do at all of our onX master classes. We'll give away some onX Hunt merch. So I will post that giveaway link in the chat towards the end of the class. And then we'll get that stuff sent out to you tomorrow. And so with that, I'd like to bring on Kayla Bendel from North Dakota Game and Fish. She's going to be our expert tonight. So Kayla, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. As Jack said, I'm Kayla Bendel. I'm the R3 and marketing coordinator for North Dakota Game and Fish. I'm originally from Minnesota, moved here like 8 years ago. Been with Game and Fish for about 5 years. And I had just reached out to Jack to talk about, we get a lot of questions about specific regulations on types of lands, access, our electronic posting system. Kind of just lumped a bunch of our frequently asked questions sections and a few tips of my own into this. But yeah, just wanted to walk through everything about land ownership. We talk a lot about access here and how to improve it. We know it's a limiting factor in a privately owned state, but I feel like sometimes even just like knowledge opens up a lot of access. So yeah, just wanted to talk through and hopefully you learn something or pick something up that'll help you this fall. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen over here. So as you're probably familiar, North Dakota is primarily privately owned. So 93% of our 44 million land acres are privately owned. So not a ton of public access out there, but also not a lot of people in North Dakota. So I feel like there's still some pretty good public and private land opportunities. Again, you might be familiar. It is hunting on posted land is not allowed, or it's legal to hunt on posted land. But hunting unposted land is still legal here. There's not a ton of that left, and land can be posted in two different ways. So we can have electronically posted land or physically posted land here. So like the tires or a sign. So it's kind of nice now that the electronic posting option is there. I'm just trying to see if this follows me. Yeah, you scroll in, these red slashes are electronically posted. Actually, you can see last year's layer. Sounds like tomorrow we'll have the 2025 layer. So a few more million acres were electronically posted from last year. But that doesn't mean if you're doing some e-scouting ahead of time that, for instance, like this piece is not posted right here, it could be physically posted when you get out there. So either one is good. They can be just electronically, just physically, or both. Some of them are physically and electronically posted. Some of them, I don't have like points memorized, but yeah, so when you click into this piece of land, it is a choice of the person who posted to leave a phone number. So you can see this one did leave a phone number. I think we're at about 58% this year was the stat of people opted to leave contact information. So some of these electronically posted will have that right here. Some of them won't. I guess there's also sometimes an address listed if you feel like knocking on a door. And generally, for any of our private land, yeah, just doesn't hurt to knock on a door. Sometimes the nearest farmstead, if they don't own it, they know who does. There's still a lot of opportunities there to hunt private land. Another just nice thing on any piece of land is the county. Sometimes if you're filling out one of our surveys, we'll ask what county you harvested your, whether it's wing envelopes or you're taking a harvest survey on deer or something like that. Kind of should say, yeah, let me click onto one. Should say the county somewhere. Let's say check.
I don't know why county
Yeah,
is.
I feel like it usually does. I usually look at this all the time to figure out which county I was in. Range.
If you go to overview and scroll down a bit, it might show below, like where it says coordinates, elevation. If you keep going, maybe not. We'll have to check
I
on
feel like
that.
it's usually there, yeah. Because I often refer to it when I'm in my surveys. But also was going to show you, so the electronic posting layer automatically turns on, I believe, when you open your North Dakota, as well as our government lands. So those are added on here. And then if you go into your layers, I turned it off. I had mine on, but you can turn on and off that electronically posted layer, and turn on this plots layer. So under North Dakota, turn on your plots layer. Now that'll be on. Electronically posted, you can turn on and off. And then also right now I just have deer units on, but if you're coming here to do something else, or a resident, you can turn on any of the new non-resident waterfall units. Those are new this year. You can turn on the turkey units, whatever it might be, but I'll just leave it as deer for now. Then as I just turned on the plots layer, let's find the plots. It's nice. They have, same with our electronic posting, you'll notice, just because it gets to be really messy, it kind of goes with your zooming in and out. So now you can see when you zoom in, the electronic posting shows up and the plots acres show up. A big common misconception is that plots is public land. And so, yeah, another one I just wanted to clear up. The acronym is private land open to sportsmen. So it's our walk-in access program, much like any other state. A lot of states have walk-in access programs, but we do want to emphasize that it's private land. So we pay them a fee to allow walk-in hunting access. So a clarification there is that, yeah, you don't have permission to drive. You can certainly ask permission if you can, if you find the landowner and want to ask permission. I don't know if it says the landowner's name either. But if you find like the nearest farmstead and you want to ask, or you know who that is, that's fine. But it's walk-in hunting access only. Another question with that is, yeah, you can't leave deer stands, blinds, anything overnight. That's not included in our agreement with them. So again, you would need written permission from the landowner to leave things overnight, to do anything besides walk-in hunting access. So another common one is like, that's not open to dog training out of season, to shed hunting, to just hiking around. It's not public land, again, private land, that allows walk-in hunting access, if I haven't said that enough. A few more frequent questions on it, though, is like a lot of them are working land, so there could be cattle out there. That's still okay. You can still hunt plots with cattle on it. Obviously, be mindful of them. A lot of times landowners that are in our plots agreements are aware that people are going to start coming out there hunting season, so often move them, but it's not it's not like you can't hunt if there's cattle out there. Just be mindful. And you can hunt standing crop on plots as well, unless there's a sign. There's a special, I think it's green, no hunting standing crop sign if that's not the case. But a lot of those are working land. So again, if there's cattle out there, it was grazed, often a great sharptail. Our Sharpies like a lot more thinner cover than our pheasants, but grazing can be good for pheasants too. And again, standing crop, there's often like we wouldn't just put a plain standing crop field. So there's going to be a waterway, a wetland, something back there that's worth looking over the hill. So yeah, they are working lands though. They're not just managed for wildlife. So there's going to be probably some sort of agricultural production out there, unless they're in a conservation program.
Kayla, one thing on my end, I think I know why the county wasn't showing up. Looks like we don't have the private and public layer
Oh,
maybe turned on. So that
maybe
is
you
a
want to check.
change. Yeah,
There
right
we go.
there.
There we go. Okay.
That should show now.
Yeah. Okay. So there's the owner, tax address if you feel like knocking on a door, and then which might not be their actual address or where they live, but and then yeah, county. So Oliver County, but Thanks, nice. Yeah, so again, in your hunt layers in North Dakota, well, there's those ones right there into North Dakota. You can turn on and off those layers. Another common question about plots, again, mostly for non-residents, is that you cannot hunt plots land the first 7 days of our pheasant season. So like that Saturday through Friday, or wildlife management areas. So basically anything that's like operated or paid for by us, North Dakota Game Fish, sportsmen's dollars. Non-residents can't hunt those unless they are the landowner. So if we have like a non-resident landowner that's enrolled in the plots program, they can hunt their own land during those 7 days. But a couple things around that. I think I've also heard it confused for the first 7 days of the waterfowl season. So it's the first 7 days of our pheasant season. And then you can hunt other, which will go through federal lands, for example. So waterfowl production areas, the national grasslands. It's just plots and wildlife management areas. So there's still opportunity if that's the week you want to come out here. It's just plots and WMAs. And then, yeah, just that first 7 days. I thought there was another question there. So then again, just I think we went through most of the electronically posted land. There will be, again, the new layer, hopefully maybe up tomorrow, it sounds like, but one other option in the contact info. I was just going to see if I could find another one that's got phone number. That's all right. If not, we did add a new option this year. We haven't promoted it a ton, just kind of testing it out. Probably promote it more in the following year, but where you can direct message the landowner. Again, they would have to opt in to that option. And then it would send a message to their Game and Fish inbox, and then you could communicate with them that way. More so just like a note for the future, because yeah, I don't think it will be heavily in play this year, and they would have to opt into it, much like the phone number or email address.
And that messaging is within your app, correct? We don't have,
Yeah.
just to be clear, that's not an option in the onX app, at least not right now. It would be through your app.
Yeah, much like this like external link here where it says visit website, it would be an external link that takes you to the app to message with them that way. But yeah, it won't be direct through on it.
Excellent.
All right, so then I was just going to go through that kind of is private land. Again, anything could be electronically or physically posted, so you can't necessarily guarantee like that this block isn't posted. Could be physically posted when you get there. But again, lots of great landowners too, so don't want to discourage people from those landowner contacts either. And then on the public land side of things, like I said, still, again, we're mostly privately owned, but one of the reasons I choose to call North Dakota home is there aren't many people here. So there's still, I feel like, plenty of opportunity on our public lands and our plots program without too crazy of competition, especially if you wait till after some of those first weeks. So our wildlife management areas on onX will be these like blue polka dots, which are sometimes kind of hard to see. I might actually go up to Wilton just because that's there's a lot less going on. So wildlife management area, so that's owned by us, the North Dakota Game Fish Department. So our mission is obviously to provide opportunity for hunting and fishing. So these are going to be very much managed for that. So that's where you are going to find things like food plots, tree rows, grass plantings, really great habitat because they're managed for that. We have over 200 wildlife management areas. They're like the yellow rectangles. Some of them most of them allow camping, just not for too extended periods of a time. Again, great habitat, but I would just say in my personal experience, these are some of the more like heavily used public lands. I think just because people are so familiar with them, they're again, very obvious wildlife habitat. That doesn't mean we still occasionally hunt some, but definitely more popular usage. I think people are just very confident that they can be there and that there is some game there. But yeah, they get pretty heavily hit, especially ones near Bismarck here. I'm from Bismarck, but also a few of them you can look up on our website have shooting ranges at them. So if you're looking to come out here and just want to sight in a rifle or just shoot a few clays or something before you go out there, several of them, especially around the Bismarck area, have shooting ranges. So Wilton here has a small one right here, just a small rifle range. I think that you can do shotgun right there. So those are our wildlife management areas. Again, not open during that first 7 days of our pheasant season, though, to non-residents. Then we have the blue squares. If anyone listens to our podcast, that's what we called one of our first episodes where we had trust lands on to talk about blue squares. But so not owned by us, public land owned by North Dakota State Trust Lands. It's historic, I forget the date program, but these lands are to make, there should be one section in every township. They're used to make money for the state school program. So like they are not managed for wildlife habitat. Most of them in this state have cattle on them for grazing. So they are managed, again, primarily to make money off grazing, or some of them further east might be cropped. So I feel like we get a lot of complaints about that, but it's just that that's not the Department of Trust Lands mission or goal out there, but they are open to public use, public hunting. So just kind of a nice benefactor. I would say, again, if you're a Sharpie nut, these are often great Sharpie spots because sharptails like grazed grass. They don't want to be in thick stuff like pheasants. So often a good sharptail spot, but that's not to say there aren't ones out there that maybe skipped a grazing rotation or just have, again, little wetlands or sloughs that could have other opportunities. So I wouldn't overlook them, but again, just a different mission than ours. They are open to hunting unless there's a specific North Dakota Trust Land sign that will say North Dakota Trust Lands. They're orange. They say closed to hunting. They have to get a new one every year. So it'll say the date on it. Often, if they do this, it's usually during the rifle season. It's closed because of grazing. And if it's closed, it's closed to hunting. So even the lessee can't be hunting out there. So some of them do get closed primarily during the rifle season with cattle out there. But I see a lot that are open too. So I've only run into a handful that get closed. Was going to scroll up to we don't have a ton. Obviously, it's North Dakota, pretty prairie and ag state, but a few native forests. So our state forest, most of it that I'm familiar with, I think most of it's up here in our like Botno area, Lake Metagoshi, a little bit of state forest land. I think it's this turquoise. That's how little I Turtle Mountain Forest, no, wildlife management. Yeah, these like turquoise state forests. Again, they have a mission of, managing forests to enhance quality for present and future generations. But so it's not maybe their mission to provide wildlife habitat, but open to public hunting. Again, most of these are going to be in our northern part of our small little part of the state that has forest. So I haven't ventured up here much, but potentially some kind of obscure waterfall opportunity or rough grouse if you're trying to knock off North Dakota rough grouse. This is going to be your best bet, or the Pembina Hills over to the east a little further. Or if you're lucky enough to be one of the few people that has an elk tag up here, but or a deer tag, I suppose. But yeah, so state forest land, again, not owned by us, owned by the North Dakota State Forests and managed primarily for just like sustaining forests for future generations, but open to public hunting. It's pretty small. Yeah, I think there's only a handful up here. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service would be another big public landowner in the state. So while we're up here, for instance, J. Clark Salyer National Wildlife Refuge is owned by the United States Forest Service. So kind of switching from state ownership to federal ownership. So owned by the United States Fish and Wildlife Service. They're there to conserve, protect, and enhance fish, wildlife, plants, and their habitats. So they're spending a lot of more time just like broadly on ecosystem services, all of our species of conservation concern, maybe not quite as focused on like game species as we would be as North Dakota Game and Fish. But again, some great hunting opportunities. So with national wildlife refuges, again, it says special regulations apply. They're not really just like widely open to hunting, but several of them I did want to point out open to upland hunting after our rifle deer season. So it can be a whole nother like asset. Long Lake Wildlife Refuge, Audubon Wildlife Refuge, a whole nother kind of untouched land after our deer rifle season is over that is open to upland hunting. You have to use non-toxic shot on any U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service owned. So I'll talk about waterfowl production areas in a second, but you would need to use non-toxic shot. And then I'm not super familiar with them, but some of the wildlife refuges have kind of limited special other hunting opportunities, but again, special regulations apply. They're not just generally open to hunting. But our waterfowl production areas, let's see if I can find one, the green. Again, owned federally, so same landowner, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, kind of with the goal of waterfowl production in the spring, but they're open to hunting in the fall. So you have to use non-toxic shot, which is obviously if you're waterfowl hunting, you're gonna have non-toxic shot. But one of my like insider tips is these are probably our best or at least untapped pheasant hunting areas. I think people just are unfamiliar with the waterfowl production area, the Fish and Wildlife Service sign. I don't know if it's the fact that it's waterfowl is in the name, so they assume that won't be upland birds there, but waterfowl nests, a lot of our waterfowl species nest in the upland. So a lot of these WPAs have grass plantings or are managed for that nesting habitat, like in here, which equals great pheasant and sometimes sharp-tailed habitat too, depending on, again, how thick the cover is. But I think that's just really underlooked. I hardly ever see a vehicle at a waterfowl production area, especially once things freeze up and you really just upland hunting that's left. But just have to make sure you have non-toxic shot on you. Let's see. Anything I'm missing so far, Jack?
We've got a bunch of questions, but maybe we'll try to cover all the questions, towards the end of the program here.
Sounds good. So kind of sticking again, I covered the state landowners primarily. So sticking with the federal land ownership. We don't have a ton of BLM, but here in the Southwest, the yellow Bureau of Land Management. I guess you'd be way more familiar, Jack, but we don't have a ton of it here, but I feel like their mission is health, diversity, and productivity, but definitely usually like some grazing and mining happening out there. Like not just, again, an agency that's looking to manage for wildlife habitat, certainly. So there's probably going to be some multiple use happening out there, whether that's grazing or
Yeah, just looking at these roads there, almost look like there might be some oil pads down
oil
there.
pads, that type of thing. But again, open to public hunting. So some of this, I've hunted some of this BLM in the Southwest. So again, federally owned, just want to distinguish from us, state owned, and then not maybe managed the greatest, but that doesn't mean there's not opportunity there, or sometimes just a place to camp if you're going to hunt some other stuff. But most of it that we have is in the Southwest here. Trying to think if I have any other notes on that. Okay. And then a big one of my favorite places to be are national grasslands. So we have the Little Missouri National Grasslands here out west, kind of by Theodore Roosevelt National Park. And then we also have the Cheyenne National Grasslands over here. So these two, again, federally owned by the United States Forest Service, kind of confusing, but so United States federal land, all this is open to hunting. There are some areas, do they show up as brown, that are non-motorized? I think that's in our plots guide. So some of the areas are non-motorized. Let me find a spot I'm familiar with. So you cannot travel, but some of them you could use like a ATV or maybe it says in the notes.
Yeah, I don't think we designate that on our side, unless it's like a wilderness area, which I would kind of doubt there is in there.
Like right here is not motorized. Just seeing if it was in the notes, but it does. We do dictate it on our North Dakota Game and Fish, like any of our land ownership tools, and they're pretty well signed as well when you're out there that it's not motorized beyond that point. But open to public hunting, again, they are managed for like sustainable use, multiple generations. So all of this is grazed often. So there will be cattle roaming around and some rough stuff. But again, open to public hunting, it doesn't mean you can't hunt there if there's cattle there. Great sharp-tail habitat, great deer habitat. That's obviously where a lot of our elk live. Just a really beautiful place if you haven't spent time out there. Yeah, one of my favorite places. I was trying to see what other notes I wanted to hit on. I think that's mostly it. And then you can camp out there if I didn't say that. So like we often just last weekend, the campgrounds are super full. So we just camped off one of these little roads. My 2-year-old said no people. Then the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So they're going to be a lot of our stuff all around the Missouri River system. So Lakes Kakawea and the Missouri River. They're kind of deliver vital engineering solutions. So again, a lot of times around dams, channels, but part of it is to also provide recreation opportunity. So they're pretty broad in that, open to like not just fishing, boating, hunting, but again, a lot of that ends up being opportunities. A lot of our wildlife management areas, like this one right here, we have several along the lake, along the Missouri River that are actually owned by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, but then leased to us for wildlife management areas, in which case they're going to, again, have grass plantings, food plantings, kind of our rules and regs, but then there's some of it that's just Corps land, Army Corps of Engineers land. It's really good. You're going to find it mostly along this Missouri River system and Lakes Kakawea. And again, open to public use, public hunting. Some of it, like there's an area in Bismarck where there's a lot of public ATV use, so there's no hunting in there, but this is the desert. But most of it is otherwise signed if there's any issues, but otherwise open. And then a little bit, the last of our different public landowners is U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. Not a ton of it, but kind of, again, along some of our channeled water bodies. I'm trying to find where New Johns is. Oops, that's Lone Tree. So Lake Chida is a big one, and then the canal chain of lakes here. I was just seeing what color it was. Yellow, I believe, this stuff. Yeah, Bureau of Reclamation, or kind of orangey, might be a darker yellow than the BLM. Open to public hunting, again, unless posted. There's a lot of campgrounds in this area, and same with the Lake Chida. So some of it's like closed in the actual area where people might camp. Jamestown Reservoir has a little bit too. But in all those instances, I guess you need to refer to, again, I think we get a lot of questions about what's the deal with Bureau of Reclamation. You're going to need to refer to like the land agency that owns it. So whether that's Forest Service, Bureau of Reclamation, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I think it all just kind of gets lumped in as government land, but different owners, different management, different rules. As we'll probably learn here in a few minutes, even I can't answer all the questions for North Dakota Game and Fish, so I certainly can't answer all the questions for all the other agencies either. But all right, we should have plenty of time for questions, but I have a few just other FAQs and then a few tips, and then we can get into the road right-of-way seems to be a big one. I guess I don't know if other states are different, but I feel like I've heard and experienced the misconception that you can hunt road right-of-ways here, whether they're posted or not, and that's not true. So the land ownership goes all the way up to the middle of the road. So they're not open to hunting unless that piece of land is public or unposted, or you have permission or whatever it might be, but you can't just hunt the ditches. It goes all the way to the middle of the road. Section lines are open to, they're not open to hunting, but they are open to travel. I'm trying to find just one I'm familiar with.
That was going to be one of our first questions. We've got a lot of people asking about section lines, so let's definitely spend some time on that.
They are open to travel unless a few instances are like we've had a lot of bad fire years. So if in the county it says no 2-track travel, or no, they kind of all word it different. ND Response is the best place to stay up to date on that, but we have had a lot of dry, like spring turkey and fall seasons fire issues. So then 2-tracks in that county are closed, in which case you couldn't drive, you could walk them. But I feel like I hear or see a lot of though where like people are misrepresenting the quarter section line. So you do need to be really sure that it's the section line and not the quarter section line. And you need to stay on the section line, and you can't hunt, while you can't hunt that, you can just walk the section line to the piece of land you're trying to access. That's not to say that you might not experience an issue, in which case you can call the local game warden, as long as you're, again, sure that you're on the section line and you weren't hunting. I'm just trying to find one that was, just basically any of these. But again, I see a lot of people just think they can walk the quarter section line, or that because there's a road there, like you can walk the road. And sometimes I mean, you have to make the call that like there's no way I could stay in this rough stuff on that section line. So it's just really not feasible, and you can't just necessarily walk this road, even though it would get you here. You can't do that. You have to stay. So like this one would be this one you could kitty corner, but not to open the corner crossing argument.
And for folks, if you're wondering where those section lines are, we do have a sections layer within the app, so you can go into your map layers and turn on the sections. If you scroll down, it should be in land and access, I believe is where it is. Yep, that sections layer right there will make sure that you're on the section line and not quarter section or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, and then I guess the other and two on section lines, again, they could be closed with fires, but also just one of our fall, again, I work on our marketing team, is like our hunt for tomorrow, or what is Montana's like just like be a good steward. I'm trying to think what Montana's tagline is, but just don't, if roads are really muddy and you're going to rut it up, just please do the right thing. Or if conditions are dry, even if they aren't technically closed, just walk. Just don't want to put a bad taste in anyone's mouth or just misrepresent hunters or sportsmen. So even if it's technically legal, it doesn't mean it's the best thing to do in that scenario. Kind of the same thing if it's in like rough stuff and you just know that you're trespassing. I just had a few insider tips. Again, I already mentioned the WPA one, but I just think, again, if you're set on coming here that first week of our pheasant season, those are federally owned, so they are open during that. And just bring non-toxic shot, and I don't see a lot of people hunting those. Plus, you could kind of do like a mixed bag walk of, there might be ducks in the slough, and then you can hunt upland birds on the side or whatever it might be. I just kind of said, like, one of the reasons I wanted to hold this is I sometimes just feel like knowledge opens access, like things you don't know. So just read the regs, stay informed. That can offer opportunities. Be respectful, kind of like I said, our hunt for tomorrow. Just if someone's at your spot, move on. I hunt here all year long, and there's plenty of access. There's plenty of spots. You can hit that spot later. I've hunted a spot right after somebody, and there's still birds in there. Just move on, and you never know, like you might find an even better spot. Just be respectful if people are there. And then, I just said, worst case, just get out and hunt it. You don't learn anything, or not too much, staring at your phone anyway. So like, if worst case scenario, you learn like, I'm not going to hunt that again, or you find something else. I can't tell you how many like turkey hunting we found grouse spots, or pheasant hunting we find duck spots, or whatever it might be. So just get out and hunt, and you'll learn something. You'll take away something, even if it's not to hit that again. Or sometimes you can see a lot of sign, but there was nothing in there. So maybe birds roost in there in the evening, but they aren't there during the day. I just feel like get out and hunt, which is an obvious piece of advice, but yeah. All right. See how the questions.
We've got, I'm just going to apologize to people right now. We will not be able to get to every question because we've got 48 in there right now, with more to come. So even if we spent 1 minute on each question, we'd be here for close to another hour. But we'll do as many as we can. There were some that were kind of in the same vein, so we'll try to touch on the big ones. One here should be a quick answer. Damien asked, does North Dakota still publish the plots booklets?
Yes, we do. We are kind of talking about phasing them out. It's just a big undertaking, a lot of printing, and then we just see a lot go in the trash. But they should be, they're getting kind of like cleaned up. I think they're actually getting sent to the printers this week. So yes, we do still. And then otherwise, kind of our plan moving forward, if we do discontinue that, is we will continue to make, it's the same PDF that feeds some of our other mapping tools, which you can find on our website. But you can print off the individual PDF sheets yourself if you know where you're headed, or you don't get a book.
And of course, I would recommend use your onX maps. That'll give you the same info. Chris asked kind of a two-part question. First part, if there's a piece of public land surrounded by private, how do you access the public? And he said, if a piece of public land is landlocked by private, and the only road showing heading into the public land is a road marked as private on onX, are you able to drive down that road to the public land?
No, I guess this is where some of that land ownership comes in. So some of these land agencies, I'm guessing a lot of this, just because I've run into it, occurs out west. Again, their mission is not to provide hunting access. Their mission is to, whatever it might be, whoever owns it, state trust land, make money for schools. And so we do have instances where, like, since then, an oil road has come in that was privately funded and made, so the oil road might go there. If you, again, a lot of those are going to be further. If you can clean walk a section line or kitty corner from a different piece of public land, none of our plots or game and fish management areas, again, because we're targeted towards providing hunting access, are going to be landlocked or unable to access. But there might be some of those land agencies that, again, that's not their main mission, is to provide hunting access. So it's pretty rare, I feel like, where I find one that you really just can't get to, but certainly it might take some leg miles or ways to get there, but there are a few that you just can't.
Jerry asked, on electronic posting, why are landowners not required to enter a phone number? Even though some do.
Yeah, so just not same thing with the physical posting. I think there's a lot of misconceptions that they were required to, like, put the date and their phone number and sign it, but that wasn't ever a thing. So it's just a courtesy that if they want to add it there, but yeah, it's just not in century code that way that they have to. Especially when it was started as a physical posting thing, it just wasn't there that they had to. So this just offered another way of posting. And so, the same thing carried over.
There was a question on the state trust land, first week of pheasant season. Is that open or closed to non-residents?
That is a goodie. I might stop sharing for the moment and just see. It is obviously state owned. I think we have it on our frequently asked questions. Hold on. Or you can hit me with the next one and I can see it.
Sure. Similar, can state trust lands be hunted while cattle is on the land?
Yes, they can. So again, just please be smart and mindful. Like, don't shoot into cattle. If you can, it depends on the cattle. I've had cattle that follow you around or cattle just kind of leave you alone. But yes, it is okay to hunt those if cattle are on them.
There was another question. I'm not sure exactly. So they said if state land, and state land's in quotations, isn't posted, can it be hunted? So state, I would assume it's public land if it's state and there's no, like, other posting, it's not closed for fire danger or something. I would assume it could.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what other state-owned land would really exist besides the ones I went through, which are open unless posted in the few instances. But yeah, I guess I don't know what other public state land would be. I mean, unless, I don't know.
One other state one while we're on it. If somebody's leasing state land, can they prevent access, or are they just leasing, like, the grazing rights, for example? Or can they, if they're leasing that section, can they post it for no hunting?
The only one I'm really familiar with would be the trust lands, which again almost all of them get leased to grazing. And like I said, they can close it. They need to talk to the Department of Trust Lands. They need to get their signs, and then it is closed, and it's closed to hunting, period. So technically they can't be hunting it either. And then, I mean, none of our stuff state owned is going to be closed. I'm trying to think what else might be leased on the state side. Yeah, I guess, I don't know. I'm not familiar with anything besides, like, Forest Service, us, and state trust lands that would be. And if we do have some grazing leases, but usually our leases, we intentionally, again, because that's our intention, is to, we usually have the cattle off by most of our hunting seasons in the instances that we lease our WMAs. But
Sure.
and I still find this trust land one. You can keep going.
Sure. For the plots, do they typically have designated parking areas, or do you typically just kind of park along the county road, or what's the deal there?
Some of them do have designated parking areas. They'll say that with a sign. Not I would say not to the extent of my experience in Montana where it's, like, very clear, but a few big ones have a designated parking area. I would say most of them don't. So yeah, ideally on the side of a road so that equipment can get through. Then though, it becomes another like issue with if we're in a fire danger to not park on tall grass. So yeah, just kind of trying to get yourself out of the way. Sometimes the approach is big enough, or there's an approach where it's like this probably is not one that they frequently use. Or if you can get off to the side on the approach, I would say most of them don't have a parking area, but there's a few I can think of that have. They're usually bigger ones might have a spot.
Yeah, and that's just advice for everybody, especially if harvest is going on. Don't block, access to a field if they need to get a tractor in there, some piece of equipment. That's a good way for a landowner to not enroll in plots if they keep having issues with that. And that fire thing really is big. Your exhaust, that heat, that can start a grass fire real quick. So try to park, on gravel or where the grass is really short or something. I know in Montana every year we have trailer chains and, mufflers that are causing fires, especially eastern part of the state where the terrain's quite a bit like a lot of North Dakota. So be considerate of that for sure.
Yeah, it's been crazy just how much more active that's been the last couple, both spring and fall hunting seasons. So
There's another section line question here. If someone owns both sides of the section line, can they fence that off and restrict access?
yeah, I mean, it could be fenced across if they own both sections, and again, they're grazing that kind of all together as one. You could still, if you're again confident you can stay on the section line and you're confident that you're on an actual section line. I was going to say, like, I think that's sometimes another misconception on a quarter section because I don't know, it's fairly rare, I guess, that I've seen. Besides some of the rough stuff out west where it's like two contiguous sections, that there's not an obvious like section line or I mean, I guess it probably does exist, but yeah, you need to make sure you're on the actual section line, and then you probably wouldn't be able to drive it. You might have to walk it. So, yeah, it's not guaranteed that you could drive any of them.
Let's see. There's an onX question here from Ben. Is the onX layer of electronic posting perfectly equivalent to that on North Dakota Game and Fish e-posting app, or do we need to verify with the North Dakota app as well? Should be the same data. I actually talked with one of my friends here at onX who handles that data. He was working on it today. We actually, I think, got it in-house today, and it should be live in onX Maps in your layers tomorrow. You should see the 2025 data. I will caveat that with saying it's software development, so there's always the potential for a bug or something like that. But he literally got the email, was on the phone with somebody from North Dakota Game and Fish today. And they sent the data over to us, so we should have it updated tomorrow. If not tomorrow, by the end of the week, barring a really big bug or something like that. Here's another question. For plots, first 7 days of pheasant season, is that closed to all hunting? They were asking about waterfowl hunting. Could they hunt plots for waterfowl?
Nope, it's just closed to non-resident use. So yeah, you couldn't hunt it for waterfowl.
Yep. Yeah, it's the kind of idea there, correct me if I'm wrong, is to allow residents kind of that first week to be able to hunt those plots, whether it's, whether the non-resident wants to hunt pheasants or deer or waterfowl, they just kind of leave it open for the residents. Let's see. Some questions about croplands. Like, can winter wheat be hunted over if it's, not posted?
Unposted winter wheat. No, so yeah, that would still be a standing crop. So yeah, you'd need permission if it's just unposted.
So yeah, that's something that's different, kind of. I guess North Dakota's kind of unique with the non-posted. In Montana, it's posted
Yeah.
even if it's not. But yeah, standing crops, even if it's not posted, can't hunt it until those crops come down.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes they just don't. So yeah, then it just is what it is.
We had, I think we touched on this before, but I think it bears going over because I think a lot of people get confused with North Dakota and South Dakota. South Dakota is kind of famous for the ditches being public. I've hunted ditches in South Dakota. It's a lot of fun to hunt pheasants, even if the land's posted. They have I think it's from their center line. Is it like 33 feet or something like that, where it's, you can walk it even if it's private? That is not the case in North Dakota. So you said the property ownership goes right up to the center line, right?
Yep. Yeah. So unless that is like unposted or public land, yep, then you cannot hunt
Yeah. Yeah. So if it's public, go
yeah.
ahead. But let's see. What about target shooting on public lands outside of designated gun ranges? I would guess that would depend on the land management agency, but could you speak to some of that?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I'd probably, again, you're going to kind of have to check with each land management agency. I'm trying to think like in what,
I know like BLM is popular in
yeah.
Montana. That's
Hmm.
generally allowed. Forest Service out here generally is, unless there's like
Yeah.
a fire restriction.
Yeah. I was going to say, I guess I have on Forest Service, like during the hunting season particularly, but I guess I'm not really familiar with like summer. Sometimes again with the fire thing, there's like no firearm bans, but yeah, it's going to just depend on, or in some areas, if it's like some of that core stuff around the lakes, it might be certainly not rifles.
Mhm.
But yeah, I guess not. I don't know for sure one way or the other. But like for an example, that's not really what they're asking. But like again with the plots thing, it's private land open to walk-in hunting, so like you can't go out there in the summer and target shoot, which I
Yeah.
think had some issues with that. Yeah.
Um, question here.
All
Nope, go
okay.
ahead.
Just all I can really find is that we specify you can't hunt game and fish wildlife management areas or plots during the first pheasant season. But I guess we can take that person down. I can check with trust lens. Um, I think it might be okay, but I don't want to
Okay.
say that for sure.
So I don't remember who asked that, but if you're talking about state trust lands for pheasant, it might be good to email North Dakota Game and
Yeah.
Fish.
Or you can email me, cbendel@nd.gov, and I can follow up with trust lens, or you could contact Department of Trust Lens. Yeah, or you can email me, and I'll follow up.
One more right away question here, talking about wetlands. If
Hmm.
wetland is accessible from a right of way, can I hunt it even if it is posted?
No. So yeah, there's like a few, like Devil's Lake is an oddball that don't ask me questions about navigable waters and Devil's Lake. Better
Right.
question for a warden. But yeah, like our wetlands are not just like public water because it's a wetland; it's still privately owned. But there's some instances again, like Devil's Lake or some bigger water bodies where there's like a navigable water rule in play. But yeah, just like kind of a standard, even a big wetland isn't like public water, if you can get to it from a section line.
Here's a couple questions. Waterfowl production areas. Ryan asked if they're open to pheasant hunting, and if so, he said steel shot, but we could lump in bismuth or non-tox. Is that required on a waterfowl production area?
Yes, yep. So that's kind of the only caveat. Yeah, that's why primarily honestly we just switched to all non-toxic. So like I'm not having to think about if we're hopping around from a plots to a WPA, but yeah, you do need non-toxic. You do
Yeah,
not need non-toxic on our WMAs or our plots land. Um,
I don't think I've shot a pheasant or hardly any upland bird with lead shot in probably since I got my dog 3 years ago, especially with pheasants. And in Montana, a lot of places where we have pheasants, I might jump shoot ducks. It's just easier for me. I typically shoot bismuth and you don't have to worry about it. And if I don't kill a pheasant, it's usually my fault that I missed and not the not the shot.
yeah,
Any special permits required to hunt pheasants on WMAs?
nope, not on WMAs or WPAs. Yeah, those two get mixed up a lot, but nope.
Awesome. Can you scout on plots land prior to the hunting season?
Not yeah, like not walking around. Obviously you could glass it or e-scout or whatever, but yeah, it's just for that walk-in hunting. Yeah, I guess I'm not sure what you would, if you're trying to like walk around there, then technically no. Like really shouldn't really be out there like right now until early goose opens August 15th. But yeah.
Okay. Let's see. If land is posted by someone other than the landowner, Can the landowner give you permission or only the person posting the land? I guess
That's kind of like, we always just, yeah, just messy. I don't know. Some of the people here who deal with our electronic posting just joke that like, we're not divorce court, but yeah, it's just kind of like their own. I would just make sure you know that whoever you're talking to is the person who deals out hunting permission. In some cases, that's the landowner. In some cases, that's the lessee. Some cases, it's both. I just wouldn't try any like inside tricks of like, well, the landowner said I could. I mean, I would just verify that like they're the ones to speak to about hunting permission. But
Right.
then
Yeah,
it kind of just becomes,
stuff gets leased out. That can
yeah.
get messy. Um, what about camping? A couple questions. What lands are camping allowed on? Maybe it's easier to just list the ones where it's not on, but I know you said like the national grassland is allowed there. I know BLM it generally is. What other lands could people?
Our land, most of our WMAs are fine. A few of them list. The best place I guess would be to just go to our website. There's a list of like which there's a few that don't, and then a few that close certain times of the year, or like again, I think it's like you can't for more than 14 days.
Believe that's the Forest Service is yeah,
Yeah,
so many consecutive days, and then you have to move to a different area.
if you go to our like WMA management listing, it lists out all of our WMAs. And so, like for instance, this one here, Lewis and Clark WMA, it says overnight camping prohibited. So any of the ones that don't say that, camping is allowed. And then there's just a few restrictions. And then I'm trying to think what else. A lot of the Army Corps and Bureau of Rec stuff have actual campground, kind of just like primitive campgrounds on them. So those can be good places to look. I know some of them are closed right now with some of the federal stuff. But yeah, I guess like we said, BLM Forest Service, some of our WMAs, yeah, not on plots land unless you had permission.
Mhm.
And not, I don't think it's allowed on waterfowl production areas or wildlife, for sure not
Yeah, I
wildlife.
think generally WPAs are not allowed.
Or trust land, you can't camp on trust land.
Yep. Here's a bit more of a fun one. What's the upland bird forecast look like? How are the birds doing?
So pheasants are looking, well, we do like to say like brood counts are happening right now, but they came out of the winter really well. So really high crowing counts. So looking pretty good. We've got a lot of storms here, but so maybe just some pockets of hail that possibly took out birds. I guess we'd know more with brood counts too on like the size of broods, but overall I would say pheasants are going to be good. Grouse are looking a little bit down, but kind of had a good 2023. So I would just kind of say like average. Again, probably pockets that do well and pockets that are kind of meh. I feel like that was kind of even the case last year. Some pockets of good grouse and some pockets of mostly like scattered adults already by September.
Hmm.
Um, and then ducks wise, overall, I feel like it just kind of be average, same thing. If you hit it right migration wise, I feel like it's North Dakota, so then it's out. You get a little spoiled here, but overall, ducks kind of not doing super great. A lot of this rain will help wetland conditions, I think, but we're kind of losing a lot of grass, so we're losing a lot of nesting habitat for ducks. So like overall, kind of nationally a little bit declining, but I
Hmm.
think it was like most of the species were down, but still above the like 60-year average or whatever it is. But definitely a good year for pheasants, it's looking like, unless anything too crazy happens.
Yeah, I would say I hunted northwestern part of the state last year, and there seemed to be a plethora of pheasants.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of waterfowl, we had a few questions on the new unit regulations for non-residents, how that all works. Um, Somebody asked if they can move between units. One person asked, you might not be able to answer this, why the change? Could you just touch on, for those that aren't in the know, the new regulations for non-residents for waterfalls and kind of what's going on there?
Yeah, I can speak to. I don't know about the. Let me see if it's up here. So yeah, we have new zones. I believe there's 6. This literally just came out like not long ago. So yeah, I'll try not to speak to anything I'm not super familiar with. I think you can even probably turn them on now in onX, but
Hmm.
sorry, there's 5. There used to only be 3. Well, there is 6. It just turned on off. Okay, there's 6. Uh, I think it's, again, I guess I would look up. I shouldn't even say. I'm pretty sure it's if you're going to hunt 7 days, you only can pick one. If you're going to hunt 14 days, you can pick 2. But I think you would have to delineate like your 7 days. I would just look on our website. I guess it's brand new. And then new this year for everyone, residents included, you also have to buy a $5 waterfall stamp. Both of these things happened in the legislative session. And a lot of it is just coming from like an increased, just all around residents and non-residents, a lot of pressure out there. So the $5 waterfall stamp is help us delineate a lot more clearly like who's waterfall hunting. For non-residents, it was a little easier because they had to buy a non-resident waterfall, but for residents, we just could hunt with our small game and our combo and a duck stamp. But you can buy the federal duck stamp anywhere. So we weren't able to like definitively say if someone with a combo license was waterfall hunting. So now with the $5 electronic stamp, we will be able to tell how many of our residents are waterfall hunting to just kind of determine if there's anything else we need to do there. And then just, yeah, no one was really sure like why the zones were what they were. I think the hope is that this helps spread out some of the pressure a little bit and maybe just kind of see what happens with these 2 things in play, get some more information, some data. Also, again, just depending on how duck populations go, maybe it's one of those things that just evens itself out if it's not as crazy as it once was. But yeah, just kind of a lot of legislative talk of like waterfall pressure. So this is kind of 2 things that came out of it. But
Yeah, it seems it's certainly not only a North Dakota thing. We talked before we logged on about Montana changing the non-resident prairie grouse season for next year. So, yeah, it seems to be game and fish departments are trying to kind of make everybody happy all across the board, no matter where you look.
just the balance, yeah.
There's a question here I think is a good one. Could you remind everybody for physically posted land, there are kind of specific requirements for where those signs need to be posted, right? Could you run us through those?
I don't have it off the top of my head in terms of like how many yards, how many corners. I know it's a misconception that they need to have like phone number, name, sign, date. I would just say, as a game and fish employee, like if you can tell the intent is there, I wouldn't jump on a piece of land because whatever it wasn't every 250 yards or whatever it is. Yeah, I guess
I
it's just
know
like
when I hunted last year, we were always kind of looking at the corners and like any access road approach was posted. And I know the guy I hunted with, some people might be familiar with Tyler Webster, hosts a pretty popular podcast. He actually did one maybe a month or 2 ago that was all kind of about asking permission and being a respectful hunter. I would recommend people listen to that. He had a landowner on talking about some of the bad behavior that he sees. But yeah, that's my recommendation. Even if it's an old no trespassing sign that's faded. For me personally, no bird or deer is really worth that headache. There's plenty of spots to hunt in North Dakota. So if you get the feeling that somebody wants it posted, I would respect that. But you can always call or knock on a door. That's another one of his points was a lot of people, there's a lot of land getting posted in North Dakota, but sometimes they just post it because of deer season, or they just post it because of the first 2 weeks of pheasant. They have family come up. I know, sharptails, a lot of times posted land. You're in there in September. Hey, is that all right if I chase sharptails? Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. Um, so that's just kind of a tip too for people. It can oftentimes be worth asking. And even if land isn't posted, there was a few questions in there. It still is good and just respectful, especially if you can pull up to the house and say, "Hey, I know the land's not posted. Just want to make sure it's okay." That goes a long way with a lot of landowners. Just showing that respect for them.
yeah, yeah, just like you said, um, and just our hunt for tomorrow. Like I hope my intent here was to definitely inform people, but yeah, just do the right thing and be respectful of all the sportsmen out there trying to access private and public land. Like, yeah, I just don't want people left with a bad taste. Or yeah, if one of the corners is missing, that doesn't mean yeah, it's just not worth it to go out there based on a technicality if you knew they were trying to post it. So yeah, just be mindful out there. Please be respectful. Like you said, you can ask if it's unposted, or ask even just like, where would you like me to park, or ask for permission to hunt it. Again, yeah, we have a lot of great private landowners here. So
Awesome. Well, we're right at an hour here. Again, I apologize, folks. We weren't able to get to every question. If you have onX questions, you can certainly, send them to our email address, which is help@onxmaps.com. One thing I forgot to post the giveaway link in the chat. So I'm going to post that right now. And I'm going to turn the chat off. So if you've stuck around to this point, you want to enter the giveaway for some onX gear, click on that link there. Kayla, what's a good resource? Is your website, if people have additional questions, is that kind of the best spot to go?
yeah, I feel bad now. I didn't share my screen on a lot of that, but our where to hunt page is a really honestly where I built a lot of this outline, and it has a FAQ. It has some more information on posting, electronic posting, our own resources for mapping. So that's a pretty great place. But yeah, generally you can find our stuff somewhere on the website, but I know there's a lot of info there. So gf.nd.gov, I guess, if you're unfamiliar with it.
One final question here. We didn't touch on Huns. How are the Hungarian portraits doing?
I guess I don't have the numbers, but I feel like average last year was a really good year. So again, if they're in line with kind of in terms of surviving winter, they probably did fine. Not really sure on broods yet, but last year was a pretty good year. So it's nice to kind of, those are just in the mix a little bit. There is no pattern for figuring out Huns. They're just random, it feels like. Certainly small grains, but it should be a decent year for them.
I've always heard if there's an old farmstead with equipment around it, that's a good spot for
Huns. But it's a weird, if you want to zoom in on onX and try to find old farm equipment, that does tend to be.
Yeah. And they definitely have some fidelity. It seems like if there's a covey of Huns in an area, kind of year after year, a lot of time, something drastic changes, they kind of stick to those areas. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, thanks again. Thanks everybody for joining us. If you didn't get the chance, click that giveaway link and I'll shoot you an email tomorrow if you won. And as someone who hunted North Dakota for the first time last year and hope to again this year, I highly encourage it. It's a great spot to hunt. There was a question in here. Somebody said, it sounds like North Dakota is a pretty restrictive place to hunt. And I kind of find it the opposite because in my state of Montana, even if land isn't posted, you can't hunt it. North Dakota is kind of unique to have that. North Dakota and, some of the New England states have similar, they call it right to roam laws. But most other states, there is no requirement for the landowner to post. It's closed unless it's specifically stated as open. So, give it a try. And, we certainly found plenty of pheasants and Huns and Sharpies. I think it was first week of November when I hunted last year. So,
yeah, if you come later, I don't think you'll have any issues. But I shouldn't say that because that's when we hunt because everyone's gone. But bring your warm stuff.
Yep, absolutely. The wind's going to blow. I can say that for sure. All right. Well, thanks again for joining us, everybody. And man, it's already August 5th. Seasons are going to be opening pretty soon. So hope everybody's getting ready and getting excited. Check out our future classes if you're interested in those, and hope everybody has a good evening.